Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lynn Cancer Institute updates, keeping you in the know in 2024. We're very grateful to have you all with us today and to learn from our very own clinical dietitian, Katie Wolke. Katie will be educating us on nutrition, fueling your exercise. At the Lynn Cancer Institute, we believe that nutrition is the basis of healthy living for all of our patients and survivors, as well as prevention for all the rest of us. And thank you, Katie, for including exercise as well. We all need that too. So just a few notes before she gets started. Your Zoom will be muted during her presentation. And typically Katie's bio would have been sent out ahead of time, but unfortunately Lee has been out this week. So when Lee sends out the final evaluation and the link to this presentation, she will also include Katie's bio. And during the presentation, we invite you to take notes. And please, if you have a question, put them in either the QA box or the chat box, because Katie will not be able to see you or hear you during her presentation, and there will be time at the end for her to answer any questions. So we're very glad to welcome you to the Lynn Cancer Institute and to introduce Katie Wolke. And welcome, Katie. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now so you guys can see the presentation. Let's see in the beginning. All right. And so this actually is really relevant to also our walk that's coming up, Run for the Ribbons. So that was nice timing. We're going to be talking about exercise today, the benefits, but also how to fuel the best and properly for it, because nutrition and hydration is a huge has a huge role with that and impacts your exercise. So exercise, it's sometimes also referred to as physical activity. So you might be hearing me use that verbiage as well. It's really just defined as movement that uses your skeletal muscles and requires more energy than resting. Okay, so physical activity can include walking, running, dancing, biking, swimming. It could be sports like a pickleball or tennis game, but it can also be things like performing household chores or gardening, especially if we're working up a sweat. So, right, anything that uses our muscles. And there's actually very strong evidence that higher levels of physical activity are actually linked to lower risk of several types of cancer. And the cancers with the strongest risk reduction are kidney, breast, and endometrial, with over a 20% risk reduction. There's also strong evidence for reducing your risk of colon, stomach, and bladder cancer as well. And why might physical activity and exercise be linked to reduce risk of cancer? Well, exercise has many physiological effects on the body, some of which have been proposed to explain the associations of these specific cancers as well. So being physically active, for one, helps you maintain a healthy weight. So this is important for preventing obesity, or more specifically, what we're concerned with is that excessive adipose or fat tissue that can accumulate in the body. Being obese is linked to actually 12 different types of cancer. Another thing that exercise does is it helps regulate your hormones. So it can help lower levels of sex hormones such as estrogen and growth factors that actually have been associated with cancer development and progression, specifically in breast and colon cancers. Exercise also helps support a healthy digestion system, so it can help prevent high levels of insulin, which have been linked to cancer development and progression as well. And we have a lot of strong evidence with breast and colon for this as well. Exercise also reduces your toxin exposure. So it can help reduce the time it takes for food to travel through your digestive system, which can decrease gastrointestinal tract exposure to possible carcinogens. So physical activity can be very helpful for all these physiological reasons. It can also be very helpful for psychosocial health. It can keep you strong and active throughout your whole aging process. And I like to think of exercise as kind of the fountain of youth. So if you continue to drink out of it, you're going to just stay younger for longer. So not only does physical activity reduce the risk of developing cancer, but it can also be particularly beneficial for our survivors. So in a 2019 systematic review and meta-analysis of observational studies, breast cancer survivors who were most physically active had a 42% lower risk of death from any cause and a 40% lower risk of death from breast cancer specifically than those who were least physically active. There was also evidence from multiple epidemiological studies that suggests that physical activity after colorectal cancer diagnosis is associated with a 30% lower risk of death from colorectal cancer and a 38% lower risk of death from any cause. And if you kind of just sit and digest those numbers and think about how large those percentages are, I mean, if we had a medication that could do those things, wow, I feel like everyone would be taking it, right? So just really, really powerful stuff here. So any exercise or movement is better than nothing. I say this to everyone. We want your body moving. Too much time spent resting or just sitting can cause loss of body function, muscle weakness, reduced range of motion. So I like to keep people moving just to keep the body going. And if you're new to exercising, starting slow and building up over time is really what's most helpful to prevent an injury. But the recommendation is really to exercise several times a week if possible. And specifically, we have these minimum numbers that are shown. If we meet these, we have significant health benefits. So that particular number for aerobic exercise is 150 minutes per week at a moderate intensity, or 75 minutes per week at a vigorous intensity. So ideally, this would look something like 30 minutes of moderate activity 5 days a week, or 15 minutes of vigorous activity 5 days a week. And moderate exercise includes things like water aerobics or hiking. It's really an activity that you can still talk while you're doing it, but they say you can't sing while you're doing it. So light conversation. And it's something that you would rate at a 5 or lower on a scale of 1 through 10 in terms of difficulty. Now, vigorous activity might look more like running or playing tennis or playing pickleball. And it's an activity that you really can't hold a conversation while you're doing it. Okay, so you would rate it at a 6 or higher in terms of difficulty. So that's just what that means in terms of the moderate versus vigorous amounts. And also remember that strength training is super beneficial for maintaining your bones and maintaining your muscles. That's recommended a minimum of 2 days a week, along with stretching 2 days a week. These are all just the minimums. Again, anything you do above this is helpful as well. So a common barrier that I'll get for people for exercise is just not knowing where to start or what to do. There are so many free resources available to people out there on the internet, and I just collected some of the most wonderful resources, also helped compiled with the other dietitians here at LCI. And so ACE is a really great reference for you to check if you're doing proper form of exercises. They have nice instructional videos, and it's really important to make sure you're doing nice form to prevent injury as well. Derby is another great resource for kind of workout plans and challenges. You can get like month-long challenges for arms or legs or abs or any of the specific sections of the body maybe you're looking to do workouts on. And so that can be nice because that can also give you a plan day to day. And at Lung Cancer Institute, we offer some physical activity programs, which is really nice. And one of them is ABC Fitness. It's a 2-session fitness and wellness program. This is specifically for our breast cancer patients who are undergoing care here at Lynn Cancer. New You is also a nice program. It's a wellness program. So we talk about wellness, nutrition, and exercise. Again, it's a 2-class series, 1 hour, one-on-one with a practitioner, and that's open to any cancer diagnosis. And then we also have oncology yoga. So it's an instructor that's been certified in oncology yoga specifically. And the only thing you need to before doing this is just the prescription from your oncologist, just to make sure that you're cleared for it. So lots of opportunities for exercise here at LCI as well. Now, during physical activity, all of our body's systems are involved, okay? Your heart, your lung, your brain, everything. And so your liver, exercise increases the demand of several nutrients in the body, not just these that are mentioned on the slide. But the nutrients that I do want to focus on surrounding physical activity are carbohydrates, protein, and fluids, okay? So carbohydrates are really the body's primary source of fuel. The body breaks down carbohydrates into a sugar called glucose. And when glucose enters our bloodstream, the body can use it right away as energy. And the body stores extra glucose in something called glycogen, and it stores it in both the liver and the muscles to use later when we need it. When glucose and glycogen levels are empty or depleted, the body can no longer go, no matter how fast or far or hard you want to go. And so it's really important that we focus on making sure we have adequate carbohydrate intake and storage in the body in order to do the exercises and physical activity that we want to do. Protein is our other really key nutrient here. It's used in every cell of our body. It keeps our body properly functioning, and it provides amino acids, which are the building blocks to build and repair muscle. Protein also sends signals to your body to preserve muscle, so you can keep it on you instead of using it for energy. So a lot of times, if we're not getting, adequate carbohydrate intake, sometimes our body can be breaking down our own muscle for energy, and we really don't want that. Muscle is really hard to gain or maintain, especially as we go through the aging process. And so we really want to preserve all of our muscle mass. Fluid is something that I feel like can be overlooked, or I see a lot of patients will sometimes overlook fluid. Really, it's our body is made up of, the majority of our body is made up of water. So we want to be mindful of our hydration status. Fluid is needed before, during, and after exercise. And when you sweat, you lose not only water, but you also lose electrolytes. So on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you'll see these are the major electrolytes that we're losing in our sweat. So you'll see that sodium and chloride are the main ones. You'll see potassium is also a huge one we lose, but we're also losing some magnesium and calcium, which are really important for optimal muscle function. And so ideally, we want to be replacing all of these electrolytes in our body, which sometimes can be from food, but sometimes we need it from an electrolyte drink. So most people, when exercising, for the most part, can just consume water for rehydration. However, if you are exercising for more than 60 minutes, you'll likely need an electrolyte drink. So maybe a juice, maybe a coconut water, a Gatorade. There's a bunch of different options out there that we'll kind of dig into a little deeper. So dehydration can negatively impact you and cause fatigue. So hydration, again, it's important before, during, and after exercise. Now, this example is mostly for someone who's going to be doing maybe a little more intensive an exercise, but I think it's still just like a good guideline for people to kind of get the idea in their head of how much they have to drink. So first, before we talk about this, I do want to say we need to focus on drinking water water all day. It's not just during the work or surrounding the workout. So always carry a water bottle with you. You can also check the color of your urine to determine your hydration status, which I will talk about on the next slide. But the point here is really to start exercise hydrated. So if we start hydrated, we're going to have less chance of becoming dehydrated throughout the exercise. So to do this, you would be having your regular sips of water throughout the day. And then you would want to drink an 8-ounce glass of water about 15 minutes prior to exercising. So that way we start off really hydrated. If you're doing a moderate to vigorous activity, remember that can look like, it can look like water aerobics, it can look like biking, it could look like running, it can look like tennis, it can look like a bunch of different things. But if you're doing that kind of activity, you want to be taking 2 to 3 gulps of water every 15 to 20 minutes. If you're exercising for longer than an hour, that's when you would want to be drinking that sports drink, such as a Gatorade, a Powerade. If you're really going longer than an hour and you're doing something a little more intense, then it would be nice to get a little carbohydrate in there as well to top off those energy stores, which is why something like a Gatorade or Powerade exists, right? Another option could be something like coconut water. There's a bunch of different electrolyte brands on the market, so whichever one you prefer or like the taste of, you could utilize that. After exercising, we also want to rehydrate. So in general, I would say just aim to rehydrate with 16 ounces of water. That would look like the standard size plastic water bottle, such as shown on the screen, especially if you're sweating longer than 30 minutes. If you go out for a 15-minute walk and you're not really breaking a sweat, then you might not need to do this. You can just continue to sip your water. But like I said, if you've been sweating, maybe your walk is a 30-minute intense walk, power walk, then maybe you do need that 16 ounces of water to rehydrate. And if you're doing a moderate or vigorous exercise in high heat and humidity, you may need a more targeted approach to hydration. So if you have access to a scale, you could do this experiment with yourself where you weigh yourself before and after a workout. And the purpose of that is because every pound that you lose during that workout is actually fluid. Okay, so that's water loss. And the recommendation is to replenish it with 16 to 24 ounces of water for every pound lost. So if I lost 2 pounds while jogging outside, I would need to consume a minimum of 32 ounces of water to replenish those fluids lost. If this sounds complicated, again, just have that bottle of water, that 16-ounce bottle of water after you do an intense exercise, and that for the most part should be good for hydrating you. As previously mentioned, there are other ways that you can assess your hydration status, such as by color of your urine. And so if you want to, you can use this chart to kind of assess how well hydrated you are. Aim for one of the first 2 colors listed on the screen. So you want it to be a really pale yellow, an odorless yellow. Anything below this can indicate that you're starting to become dehydrated. Okay, so you would want to start drinking more water if you notice that you get a darker urine color throughout the day. That's an indication you're not well hydrated. Be aware that there are other things that can change your urine color. It might not mean you're dehydrated. So those things could be medications, vitamins, supplements, can change the color of your urine even if you're well hydrated. So B vitamins especially, you'll notice if you take your multivitamin and then you urinate an hour later, you'll notice that you get that neon yellow color, and that's from the B vitamins. So that's different. But the colored chart should really only be used as a general guideline. If you start to notice that your urine is maybe one of these darker colors very often, it would be something that you just want to run by your doctor just to see maybe further what's going on. Okay, and some people may be hesitant to eat surrounding exercise or physical activity, especially if someone has the goal of weight loss or trying to maybe change their body composition. And when people undereat or underfuel, especially when trying to exercise on top of it, it can really be a setback to progressing with your goals. And when the body isn't properly fueled, it pulls nutrients from things like our bones and our muscles. And really, underfueling can increase your body's level of stress hormone. So, cortisol can have you feeling fatigued during physical activity and after physical activity. And it can keep you from achieving your full potential in your exercise regimen. And so it's really important that not only you get adequate macronutrients and micronutrients throughout the day, but also the timing of when you eat these things and specific things can be really important to optimizing your physical activity. And so just be aware that if you are experiencing some of these side effects or signs that are listed on the screen, those all can be indications that you're underfueling, possibly throughout the day. It could be underfueling around your workouts. Of course, there can be several other reasons why people may feel, the fatigue and the inability to sleep and all these other things, but it could just be a reminder for you to check and see if you are getting enough to eat and if you are eating properly around the workouts, because it could be your nutrition that's causing these things. So here's an example of a fueling timeline. Okay, so this is a fueling timeline just with the idea of surrounding exercise. And when you eat a balanced meal, such as your breakfast or your lunch, one that has multiple food groups, okay, so protein, fat, carbs, vegetables, all the things, it's best to eat that meal 3 to 4 hours before exercising. And this is because it gives you enough time to digest your food from your stomach to your intestines. And this can help prevent things like reflux during exercise or nausea. Some people can experience other GI issues while exercising. Some people feel the need to use the washroom while exercising. So eating your big meal 3 to 4 hours before is really what can help prevent those kinds of side effects. When you get closer to 1 hour before exercising, it's best to only eat things like digestible carbohydrates. And that's because that's what's going to top off your energy stores. And it's not going to fill your stomach. It will digest very quickly. Now, you want to avoid high fat, high fiber foods before exercising because these can take longer to digest. Examples of those quick digesting carbohydrates are things like fruits. So bananas, dates, dried mangoes, maybe even pretzels, a fig bar, granola bar. If you're hungry before a workout or if you're going to be doing a more intense workout. So some people may need the snack, others might not. If you're going on just a 15-minute walk, this might not be necessary, right? But if you're doing a more intense, longer exercise, anything moderate to high intensity for over 30 to 45 minutes or longer, you could definitely benefit from this snack that tops off your energy stores. During exercise, the majority of population doesn't need a fuel source. Fluids really should just be the only thing you're consuming during actual exercise. And this is to help with hydration. Now, of course, we're hydrating beforehand, like we've previously talked about, but this is just to show you that during exercise, that's kind of the only thing you want to be consuming. If you're exercising over 60 minutes, that's when you would want to drink something like the Pedialyte, the Gatorade, the Powerade. Those are the things that we would want to really utilize, during an exercise. And really the other time, I will just say that, we live in South Florida, right? So in that's hot summer day, if you're going on a really long walk or run or bike and you're doing a lot of sweating, that's another time where the electrolyte drink might be appropriate, even if it's under an hour. Okay, so anytime that we sweat, remember that's when we're losing all the electrolytes. So we want to be replacing not just fluid, but also electrolytes during that, because those can deal a lot with the contraction of the muscles. Sometimes people can get muscle cramps or can get dizzy or lightheaded when they're exercising or walking or doing those things outside, and they're losing too many electrolytes for their body to keep up with. So after exercise, the best thing is to just have a balanced meal within 2 hours of exercising. If you don't have a meal planned within 2 hours of exercising, you will want some type of a snack that has protein and carbohydrate. So you'll want anywhere from 15 to 25 grams of protein after exercising for muscle repairing and to also stop the breakdown process. And you'll want anywhere from 30 to 45 grams of carbohydrates to replenish those glycogen stores. Now, where you'll notice a difference with this, if you're not already doing this, is you'll have better energy stores for the next time you go to work out. So the most storage of our glycogen stores or our carbohydrate storage in the body happens right after exercise. And so replenishing that can help you feel even more energized for the next workout that you do. Examples of that good kind of ratio, so to speak, of the protein to carbs that I was mentioning would be something like a cup of Greek yogurt with fruit, a glass of chocolate milk, or protein shake. And depending on how intense your workout was, you can add the fruit or the pretzels to it as well. Again, anything over an hour, if it was moderate to high intensity, I would add the extra carbohydrates in. If it wasn't over the hour, then you don't need to add the extra carbs in. Another example could be something like peanut butter and an apple. So just think protein and carb, protein and carb. That's kind of the goal that we're going for here. Okay, and so another common question that I'll get from people is, do I need a protein shake? Do I need a supplement? So not everyone needs a protein supplement, and you can build muscle without one. Okay. However, there may be a bunch of reasons why people will choose to take a protein supplement, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people get a supplement for the convenience of getting the amount of protein that they need. So getting 20 to 25 grams of protein, even 15 grams of protein in an 8-ounce glass of protein powder can be a lot easier than having to eat a 4-ounce chicken breast, because that would be the equivalent. Some people might even need a protein shake because they choose to limit certain things from their diet. And so, maybe they're vegan or dairy free. Then a protein supplement might be more helpful to meet your total protein needs, especially right after a workout. So remember, protein, particularly 2 hours after the workout, is really the ideal for not only preventing muscle breakdown, but also building muscle. And there's generally 2 types of protein supplements that are out on the market. There's usually you'll see a whey-based protein supplement and a plant-based protein supplement. If you're consuming the protein supplement after a workout, technically the optimal protein powder would be a whey-based protein powder. And this is because it's most quickly absorbed into the muscles, and it has higher amounts of a specific amino acid named leucine. And this particular amino acid is very beneficial for muscle building. However, if you need a plant-based protein powder, that will also still be very helpful for preventing muscle breakdown and muscle building. It's still going to have all the essential amino acids that you need, or the essential building blocks for building protein in the body. So ultimately, it comes down to preference and what your overall goals are. Now, I just also want to mention that there's also collagen. There's other types of protein powders out there. So there's collagen, there's branched chain amino acid supplements. Collagen is a type of protein that has large amounts of glycine, another specific amino acid that has been shown to be beneficial for collagen synthesis in the joints. So collagen is kind of like the cushion in our joints. And this could be helpful to supplement with if you have osteoarthritis or joint pain specifically. It has been shown to be beneficial. But just keep in mind that collagen is actually not a complete protein. So if you want all the building blocks for building your muscle or preventing breakdown, it's really best to supplement with a whey or a plant-based protein right after working out. That being said, if you do have something like joint pain or you're running and you want to protect your joints, then the collagen could be a nice addition to that as well. The branched chain amino acid supplements are basically a type of amino acid that people might consume while working out to prevent muscle breakdown. However, studies show that as long as you're consuming your pre-workout snack and a post-workout protein, you don't really need the branched chain amino acids, because they'll naturally be in the other supplements or in the other food sources if you're getting complete protein sources. That being said, some people choose to use them. And I'm not on the next page, I'll list some examples of these protein powders just so you can have an idea. And really, there's not much to avoid with protein powders. It's more so like whatever your preference is. However, there are just some things I tell people to look out for, or maybe they do want to avoid, especially if they have sensitive stomachs. I'll say to look out for sugar alcohols like erythritol. Some artificial sweeteners can cause people's stomach upset, and then carrageenan, it's an emulsifier that helps basically blend the protein powder very smoothly. These things could cause GI upset or distress. It could cause like gas, bloating, diarrhea, cramps. And so again, not everyone will experience that, but notice that, if you do, look and see the ingredient list. And if it has one of those things, maybe you need a protein powder without one of those ingredients. Another thing I look for with supplements is third-party certification. So remember that supplements are not regulated by the FDA, and that includes protein supplements, unfortunately. So you really don't know for sure what's actually in it. So if you get a third-party certification tested supplement, it is going to be more expensive because they are going through that verification process, and it is very expensive to do. However, you are ensuring that the quality of the product is there. So basically, it confirms that what they say is in the label is actually in the product. And options for this would be the USP certification, NSF, and then sometimes any other verification that it goes through, such as like USDA organic or non-GMO. All of those require some pretty rigorous testing. And so I just feel safer getting supplements that has gone through some type of testing. So if you can, I would look for those things. And the example of those labels are listed on the screen here. So here are just some, there's hundreds of products out there on the market, but here are just some of the protein powders that I tend to suggest to people. And then my colleague has also said that she's recommended to people. And most of these have they have some third-party certification or the NSF certification. Some of them can be expensive. There's kind of a wide price range on this screen, but these are just some that I tend to recommend to people. You'll notice that some of them are the whey-based proteins, and some of them are the pea-based or plant-based proteins. And most of these can be found at like a Whole Foods or sometimes even Publix. Sprouts has a wide variety as well. These are ready-to-made protein supplements or drinks. The difference with these is the other ones are a powder that you need to mix into a water or milk or something, whereas these are already pre-made and mixed up drinks that you can just take and they're ready to go. Again, these are just all a good amount of protein. I would aim for anywhere between 20 to 30 grams of protein in the supplement. And then the nice thing about these is you don't have to refrigerate any of them. Even the milk-based ones, so the Fairlife options, are ultra pasteurized, which means that it actually doesn't need to be refrigerated. The thing to note about the Fairlife products is that they do put lactase enzyme in them. So that just means that if you do have a lactose intolerance, these should still be pretty well tolerated by you because it breaks down that lactose in the product. However, if you are allergic to dairy, you would want to avoid these. Same with the whey as well. Okay. And you can see here the bottom two are the plant-based and the top three are derived from milk. So in addition, I know we kind of maybe went a little backwards here, but in addition to supplementing around your workouts, it's important to get proper nutrition around your exercise as well. So throughout the whole day. And it's crucial to get enough protein throughout the day to maintain and build muscle. So the equation for muscle is really protein plus exercise, particularly resistance training. And protein needs vary based on body weight. So for instance, someone who's 120 pounds will need somewhere between 65 to 80 grams of protein per day, compared to someone who's 175 pounds. They'll need closer to 95 to 120 grams of protein a day. And it can be overwhelming looking at that total. So I also split it up into how much you would need for a meal if you were to eat 3 meals a day. Now, these needs are really based on like maintenance if you're going through cancer treatment, or also if you wanted to be building muscle. Okay, so these are a little bit higher than like what the general minimum amount of protein recommendation would be for someone. But in general, what we find through studies is that a little bit higher protein intake, as you know, reflected here, is what's most helpful for building that muscle, especially through a treatment. So in order to meet, you know, these total protein goals, it's crucial to have a high protein food with each meal. And usually what I find is that people's lowest protein meal is breakfast. So for instance, if you're having like a bowl of Cheerios with almond milk for breakfast, you're getting maybe 5 to 10 grams of protein at max for that meal. So usually an adjustment that I would suggest for people is to swap out the almond milk with something like a Greek yogurt, which has 16 to 20 grams of protein per cup. If you're struggling to eat protein at all meals, you can also count your protein for snacks. So if you have a little bit of lower protein intake at breakfast, you can always have a higher protein snack to make up for that protein intake. So this is a nice reference list to just kind of show people like what foods have protein in them and how much of that food you need to consume to kind of get that goal protein amount. So for instance, if we're trying to get on this screen anywhere from 20 to 40 grams of protein per meal, then we would want to get, you know, at least one of these protein sources with each meal in order to meet that minimum of the 20 grams of protein. So it's kind of confusing to sometimes add it all up. So I also wanted to show what a meal plan would look like. So this would be like a high protein meal plan for someone who is trying to get 90 grams of protein. So if we have an individual who's 150 pounds, a 150-pound individual should aim to get anywhere from that 80 to 100 grams of protein, especially again, if undergoing treatment or if you're trying to build muscle. And to achieve this range, you would need about 30 grams of protein a meal. So as I said before, if you're a little short on protein at one meal, you can always use the snack to meet the higher protein needs. So in this situation, if the person has a 2-egg omelet with some cheese, they're getting only about 20 grams of protein for their breakfast. So in order to supplement that, their snack would have a protein source such as peanut butter. And then their other 2 meals of the day, the lunch and dinner, have adequate amounts of protein, with their protein sources being the tuna, the whole grain bread, the chicken breast, and the broccoli. So this is just, again, an example of how you would actually meet that protein need. And in summary, we talked about a lot today, so I just want to recap. Exercise, we know, reduces the risk of cancer and overall risk of mortality even after having cancer as a cancer survivor. And the aim is to get at least 150 minutes of that moderate intensity per week, along with 2 times a week of strength training and stretching. We know that carbohydrates fuel our workouts, so it's important to get enough carbohydrates surrounding the workouts in addition to our meals. We know that protein builds and maintains muscle, so we want to get enough of that throughout the day, in addition to right after our workouts. And we want to be hydrating all day, but also during exercise. And we want to be particularly mindful of electrolytes if we're working out for over an hour or we're doing excessive sweating. Protein supplements, we know, are not always necessary, but they may be convenient and helpful for you to meet your protein goals. And it's important to meet our total protein goals daily. So I advise you to either refer to the list that I showed you and try to find about your weight and how much protein you might need, or you can, of course, reach out to a dietitian here at LCI and figure out how much protein you should be having each day. So all that being said, now I'm going to open it up for questions if anyone has any.
Can you, let's see, I think the questions are in the chat box. Can you see them?
I can. Okay. Okay. Someone said, I have worked out my whole life and I have breast cancer. That's still good that you're doing that, because we know that reduces further risk of mortality, even after your breast cancer diagnosis. If you work out early in the morning and cannot eat a big meal before, yes, it's a very good question. You don't have to eat a big meal before. So if you're working out in the morning, let's say you wake up at 7 a.m. and you're planning to go work out at 8:30, the suggestion would be, if you can, have something small like a banana, like I said, maybe a couple dates or dried fruit, something very light that's going to digest very quickly, but also kind of start, giving you some energy source. If some people prefer to work out fasted, so not eating anything, if you can tolerate that and not get dizzy during your exercise, not get nauseous, not get any of those side effects, then that's okay. Just make sure that after you exercise, you really need to emphasize having that snack with you, so that way you can start, repairing the muscles as quickly as possible. I have so many people that don't like to work out or don't like to eat before working out. And again, that's fine, but we just need to really prioritize the post-workout nutrition. And it depends on what your workout is. Maybe if you're doing like a light yoga, or if you're just doing a quick walk down the street, you might not need to do the nourishment before. But especially if you are doing a half an hour or something a little bit more intense, that is a time where it would be preferable to have a snack before, or at least prioritize getting the nutrition in after. Okay, and absolutely hydrate. As well, because after we are sleeping all night, that's a whole 8 hours that we're not hydrating. So I hope that answered your question. Are there any other questions here?
I don't know. You covered so much information that I don't think we could possibly have questions, but I think that I know myself, I want to go back and revisit some of the information because it was all so good, and especially to see where it fits in for us. So our lectures are recorded. So this, again, when Lee sends out the information, she'll send out the link to see this presentation, and also on our website. Hopefully will be this presentation soon, as well as most of our past lectures. So, and also when Lee sends out the evaluation, please complete it. It helps us, one, to add you to our mailing list, and two, if you have any suggestions or ideas, it helps us in our presentations. So in February, we will be having another nutrition presentation presented by Marie Miranda, another of our oncology clinical dietitians, and her topic will be reducing cancer risk by eating well, and which is the basis really of all of their presentations, which are so good. And also in February, we're going to be celebrating World Cancer Day on Sunday, February 4th, with our 13th annual Run for the Ribbons, which will be followed by our Cancer Legacy Day. And if anyone would like to register for Legacy Day, you can please contact me or Lee, and we'll sign you up, you and family and friends. And if you'd like to participate in the run, you can go to runsignup.com and register there. So let's see, there looks like one more question. The dates of February agendas and time. So I'm thinking you mean the February lecture will be February 28th. And that'll be the lecture with Marie. And we're hoping that at some time, and maybe during February, as Katie mentioned, this really fits in with our run, because we encourage not only our patients and their family members, but our employees to participate in the run and kind of get used to either doing a walk or a run. And we like to feel that this is a good opportunity to, what do they say, go from the couch to the whatever, to the course. And so she might be doing this again to benefit more people. It will be after the run, but it's also great encouragement. So thank you, Katie. That was a lot of research, and we really appreciate all the time and effort that you put into it, and your expertise we really value, and we are really grateful. So thank you so
Thanks, Jan.
much. And thank you for everyone who tuned in today. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.